Alright, welcome back. I finally have a gaming video today playing one of my favorites, Pikeman's Lament from Osprey Games. And I've got the gaming table set back up. And today, our scenario is going to be set in the late 17th century, so at the time of the Great Turkish War, when the Habsburgs start to drive the Ottomans back. So we're moving ahead in time a little bit with what I normally play, but mostly because I wanted to get these guys on the table. And so our scenario for today is that we're in the Great Turkish War. We're in somewhere in Hungary as the Austrians are advancing, and the Turks have decided to forage or loot in this vineyard. So we've got some hedgerows to represent the grape plants. We got a couple farm buildings, which you can see are on fire. The Tatars have already set fire to them. These are some artillery crewmen, but they're going to be civilians for today. So I'll explain that in just a second. But we'll go down the forces for today. So we've got some Crimean Tatar auxiliaries. So they're going to count as dragoons for our purposes, since they're scout infantry. They just happen to have bows instead of carbines or arquebuses. We've got some Ottoman provincial shot, so they're just going to be standard shot, nothing special. And then we've got some galloper infantry, so some provincial Ottoman cavalry. And then on the Austrian Habsburg side, we have some militia, some local militia. So they're going to be maybe some German colonists that have tried to move into Hungary during the war behind the army, but now they're having to defend their new land. We've got the Habsburg line infantry, and our commander for today is going to be this guy here. Not exactly an officer, but we'll say he's a sergeant or something. And then we've got some dragoons. So the regulars are going to go in and try and they're going to be meeting this scene while they're trying to do their own foraging, and we'll see what happens, and I'll explain more when I get the deployment set up. And then on the Ottoman side, our commander will be, I think we'll go with our friend here with the two feathers and the striped shield, our Bey, we'll say. And I'm going to go ahead and roll off for the leadership officer traits, and we'll see what happens, and then get deployed. Okay, so went ahead and rolled for our officer traits. So our Turkish commander, Orhan Bey, we'll call him, he is rolled a 8, so he gets the strong trait. And then our Austrian commander, our sergeant there, he got the ladies' man trait, so that just means he has extra honor points for advancing in rank. So doesn't really give him any anything special, but our Turkish officer, our Ottoman officer, will be strong, so his unit can reroll failed hit dice during attacks when they're attacking or defending. And part of this video is going to be a refresher on the rules for me, because I have not played this in a very long time. Okay, now let's go ahead and deploy. I'm not going to use any of the deployment things in the book. I'm just going to come up. This is my own scenario, and I'm going to set them up, and then we'll take a look at the table. Okay, so getting deployed here. Here on the edge of the farm, we've got our Austrian regulars. We've got the unit of dragoons. And we've got the column, small detachment of infantry marching up. The house is already burning, and the Tatars are occupied in the little courtyard area of the farm. And they've taken these guys captive. So this guy has a musket, but he's out of ammunition, and they are going to be probably captured and enslaved. The main house is also on fire, and both sides want some grapes and probably the wine that's in underneath in the basement in the cellar underneath one of these buildings. And already we have the uh, local militia firing on the Ottomans. So they've just gotten started when our regulars come onto the field, and then the uh, cavalry here, they're kind of hanging back. Uh, Ottoman cavalry in this period, not what they were 100 years before, but they're waiting for the right time to sort of swoop in and wipe out these militia. So uh, since this is an I go you go game, Austrian Habsburgs are going to be attacking, and then Ottomans, since they're occupying this vineyard, they're going to be defending, and we'll get into turn one. Okay, so we've had a little bit of action on Austrian turn one. So the militia, they're raw, so they need sixes effectively to hit their target, but they were able to inflict some casualties on the Ottoman musketeers. Over here, the dragoons advanced up, and they have a special skirmish rule, so they can make a half move and then shoot, and that's what they did. So they inflicted another casualty. The musketeers passed their check, so they managed to hold. And then over here at the back end, our line infantry with our sergeant, we'll call him Sergeant. Anyway, we'll think of a name later. He just advanced up, so they're going to try and maybe take on the Tatars. We'll see what happens there. And then now we'll go over to the Ottomans. Okay, Ottoman turn one was really uneventful. The Orhan Bey's Spahi cavalry were going to charge in to break into these German militia, rolled a 4 on his activation, and failed. So that ends their activation phase, and now it's back to the Germans. Nope, made a mistake. So rolled a 4, they activate to attack on a 5. So and because that's the officer, they're going to carry it out. So I made a mistake there. Sorry about that. And because they're Galloper cavalry, they can move 10 inches. So we'll resolve that and see what happens. Okay, so in a crazy twist of fate, our Ottoman cavalry charged up, and our militia, our plucky Austrian militia, actually managed to land more hits defending than the cavalry were able to inflict. So they actually tied. So they both just took one casualty. So the Turkish cavalry is actually going to have to retreat back, and then we'll go through the rest of the turn. Okay, so our Ottoman musketeers, they turn just to face, not really a move and shoot. In these rules, facing isn't really a thing, and there's no like shift. Units can fire basically in all directions because it's more of a skirmish. So that's what we did. So they fired on our dragoons, and they took one casualty, unfortunately, but they saved their morale. And then over here, our line infantry took 2 casualties from the Tatars, and I think for our scenario, I'm going to. What I might do is play this out as a mini campaign. We'll do, I think, 3 games, but we'll see. So if the Austrians can save these people, they'll get a little extra honor. The Austrian officer will get extra honor at the end of the game. We'll say 2 points depending on who wins, in addition to the 5 I think it is you get from winning a game, and then they'll be considered part of the Tatar unit, these captives. So they fired their bows and they did that, and then we'll move to game turn 2. All right, Austrian Habsburg turn 2, real short. So we had the militia were able to get some shots off, and now they're hitting on 6s, so it's really hard to try and fire at the dragoons, or the heavy cavalry here. So because they're stamina 3, they needed to make 3 hits to inflict a casualty. And then over here, our dragoons went to test to fire. They did not pass, and they did not hit any. So turn is over. So now it's back to the Ottomans. Okay, Ottoman turn 2. Unfortunately our militia was totally routed. Did manage to take down 1, so they did lose. So our Turkish cavalry did lose 1 base. And then over here, the infantry tried to make a shoot move, needed a 7 to activate, didn't pass, so their turn is done. And now we're on game turn 3, and we'll kick it back to the Habsburgs. And I think we'll start over here with our line infantry to see if they can try and get some shots off on the Tatars. Okay, so our Austrians are kind of in a little bit of bad shape since the militia got wiped out. Our line infantrymen, led by, we'll call him Sergeant Steiner. So Sergeant Steiner's detachment was able to kill 1 Tatar, but they've still basically full strength, and they've got the captives still. And then over here, our dragoons did make a skirmish move to shoot at the Turkish cavalry, but didn't land enough hits to make it to take out a casualty. And then now it's back to the Ottomans. All right, I kind of love this about Pikeman's Lament, where if you fail an activation, you're done. So it keeps the game moving. So our Turkish musketeers went to fire at the dragoons. They needed a 7 to test for shooting, and they failed. And then so now we're going to go to the Austrians. All right, so right at the beginning of our turn, the dragoons fired into the Ottoman musketeers, and took out, made a total of 6 casualties. So they're really down to 6 men, so they're at half strength. But they totally failed their morale checks, so they've been routed, and we can assume the ones that are still alive have fled the board. So we'll put them off to the side, so they've been killed. And then now let's see what happens with Sergeant Steiner on the other side. All right, so the line infantry had a good roll, managed to pull off their shooting activation, and took out another Tatar. And now they're going to have to do a morale check. And the Tatars managed to succeed in their morale checks, so they're still in the fight, and they're still trying to pull those captives away. So I think on the next turn, we will go ahead and see. I think they're going to try and make a break for it, and see maybe if they can get them off the table, but we'll see if they activate. All right, so I decided to make up just a house rule on the spot that if if the Turks have captives, if they're cavalry, their movement's gonna be reduced. So I decided that dragoons normally have 12-inch movement in Pikeman's Lament. I said, since they've got these captives with them, they're going to move 8. So just to show that they're moving a little bit slower. But over here, our dragoons got wiped out, unfortunately. So because in Pikeman's Lament they're considered, our Ottoman Spahi are considered a galloper cavalry, they have to make a follow-up if they win a melee. So they got a ton of casualties and wiped out the dragoons. Unfortunately, the dragoons tried to do an evasion move and shoot before they charged, but it didn't work. And now we're just with Sergeant Steiner, and he's going to have to make a decision about what to do. And I think he is going to try and save the people if he can. So they're going to go ahead and just make a little bit of a formation change. Not really a full move. And just to make it look a little nicer. And they're going to try and fire into the Tatars again. Alright, so they managed to take out another Tatar, but the Tatars are pretty resilient. They succeeded in their morale check. And then now it's back to the Ottomans. And we will see if the Tatars can get these captives off the board, and if the Spahi will make another charge. We'll see what happens. I think they'll have to make a move first and then advance. Alright, so for the Ottomans, kind of an uneventful turn, but the Tatars are getting the captives off the table. Oh, caught a peek of the casualty pile over there. And then the main cavalry were not able to do an attack move. They were a little too far away, so all they did was move up to charge into position. And I think now Sergeant Steiner is going to shift his men, and they're going to try and fire on and take out those guys. So we'll see what happens. Okay, unfortunately for Sergeant Steiner, he was kind of hapless. Failed his activation totally, got a double 1, and on the blunder table, he rolled a 6. It just means he lost 1 honor, but don't think he's going to even survive this game. So I think those Turkish cavalry are going to charge into his unit. So go ahead and roll for that activation on the Ottoman turn. Alright, sadly, that's going to be it for the Austrians. So Sergeant Steiner, maybe a little Freudian slip there, tried to make a heroic last stand against the charge. Didn't quite manage to take out one of the Turkish cavalrymen, but unfortunately routed, and so leaving this farm in the hands of the Turks, and ultimately in ruins, and the Tatars, while severely damaged, were able to get away with some captives, and so I think this game is going to go to our Turkish commander, who I think I grabbed his base by accident. Yeah, I did. Anyway, not a big deal, but anyway, gonna go to our commander, Orhan Bey. So I think he's gonna get 5 honor, and we'll say the captives counted as a bonus objective for 3, so he's up to 10. He's up to 18, so not quite ranked up yet, but won the game. And for our next game in the series, I was hoping our sergeant would make it and he would get promoted to becoming a lieutenant, but that did not happen. So we're going to have to get a new officer on the field for our Habsburgs, and see what happens in the second game. So hope you like this new gaming video. I'm really glad I did it, and we'll see what happens in a follow-up.